विश्वंदर्पण दृश्यमान नगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोध समये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्री दक्षिणामूर्तये। नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठं अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यै सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे। नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रियब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ओम। I welcome you all to the 20th class of the Fundamentals of Vedanta series. We have been discussing the question of how an adhikari becomes an adhikari. We said that an adhikari has to meet three criteria. The adhikari must be a mumukshuhu, the adhikari must be a jigyasuhu, and the adhikari must have a certain preparedness of mind. So in order to answer the question about how the adhikari becomes an adhikari, we have been in the process of answering these three questions of how the adhikari becomes a mumukshuhu, how the adhikari becomes a jigyasuhu, and how the adhikari gains this preparedness of mind. So as of the last class, we have completed answering the first two questions. How does the adhikari become a mumukshuhu, and how he becomes a jigyasuhu? So how does the adhikari become a mumukshuhu? By discovering the problem of samsara. And the discovery of the problem of samsara is the discovery that the struggle to gain this purnatvam through the first three purusharthas is never ending. And when one comes to this point, one begins to question, I have been pursuing arthaha, kamaha and dharmaha. Is there any other way in which I can gain this purnatvam? And when one comes to this point, Veda Purva tells him that I have given you whatever I can. But now, in order to gain what you are asking for, where you are seeking this purnatvam directly, you need to approach Vedanta. You are now a seeker of moksha. In this manner, this adhikari becomes a mumukshu. Then how does this adhikari become a jigyasuhu? The adhikari becomes a jigyasuhu by diagnosing the root cause of all the struggles in life. The adhikari comes to the conclusion, with the help of Vedanta, that the root cause of all my struggles is self-ignorance. Vedanta points out that your seeking for this purnatvam is exactly like the 10th man seeking for the 10th man. The 10th man was already the 10th man, but the 10th man was ignorant of his own status of being the 10th man. Similarly, you are already Purnaha, but you are ignorant of your own Purnatvam. And that is the reason why one takes oneself to be Apurnaha and then looks for Purnatvam. The Samanya Jnanam that I am is there. But the Vishesha Jnanam of who I am, that this I am is really Purnaha, is not there. And because of the lack of Vishesha Jnanam, I invariably make a mistake. I superimpose what I am not on this I am. I start to superimpose the limitations of the body and the mind upon this I am, and I start to say I am Apurnaha. And then I go on an endless seeking for this Purnatvam. And whatever I do to seek this Purnatvam in the field of Artha, Kamaha, or Dharmaha, none of it is opposed to this basic self-ignorance. It stays intact throughout the process. And because the self-ignorance stays intact, the superimposition, the mistake is also there. And therefore, I continue to take myself as being Apurnaha no matter what I accomplish. When one understands this, then it becomes very clear that this self-ignorance is the cause of my problems. And therefore, one now becomes a seeker of knowledge because only knowledge is opposed to ignorance. And hence one becomes a jignasu, a seeker of knowledge. But even after one comes to this point, there are related questions about knowledge. What is this knowledge and how to gain this knowledge? What is the means of this knowledge? So until all of this is clear, one can still continue to struggle in the spiritual field. And that is why we got into a discussion of the pramanas. Pramanas meaning means of knowledge. We said that Vedanta identifies 6 pramanas. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Arthapatihi, Anupalabdhihi, Upamana, and Shabda. So out of this, these are all the means by which we gain all kinds of knowledge in this world. So out of this, we eliminated everything except Shabda. Because none of the other things are capable of knowing the Atma, because the Atma is the very subject. It's an attributeless subject, whereas Pratyaksha is capable of knowing only attributed objects. Therefore, Pratyaksha is eliminated. And then Upamana, Anupalabdhi, and Hanumana. Upamana, Hanumana, and Arthapatihi. These are eliminated because they are dependent on Pratyaksha. And then Anupalabdhi is eliminated because it is for knowledge of non-existent things, but this Atma is existent. I know that I exist. So we are just left with Shabdaha. And even in Shabdaha, we eliminated the Laukika Shabdas because the Laukika Shabdas are just carriers of knowledge that is gained through these other pramanas that we have already eliminated. The Laukika Shabdas authored by human beings that carry knowledge from these other pramanas cannot reveal the nature of the Atma, cannot reveal who I am. So then we came to Vedika Shabda. Vedika Shabdas, and we said that the difference is that unlike Laukika Shabdas, which are carriers of knowledge gained from other pramanas, Laukika pramanas, the Vedika Shabdas themselves are the revealers of knowledge that cannot be gained through any other pramana. Pratyakshena mitya va yastu payo na buddhyate enam vidanti vedena tasmat vedasya vedata. Then we talked about the authorship. Is there an author for the Veda? We said the Vedas are presented as being a Paurusheya, meaning not a product of human origin. And how did we discover? How did we come to know about the Vedas? The Vedas were revealed to the Rishis because of their extreme tapas. Because they had a very fine instrument that was capable of perceiving the Veda. We said that because this Veda is apaurushaya, it doesn't have the defects that Paurusheya Shabdas have, of the limitations of the Pramanas and being tainted with human ignorance. None of these defects are there. Then we talked about the subject matter of the Veda. Dharma, Brahma, Pratipadakam, Apaurusheyam, Pramana Vakyam Vedaha. It talks about two things, Dharma and Brahman. The Veda Purva talks about Dharma, it reveals Dharma. Whereas Vedanta, it reveals what Brahman is. So then we got into a discussion of the Shabdas of the Veda Purva. And we said the Prayojanam is Dharma, which is Punyam. And this Punyam can be used by a religious materialist to gain Artha and Kama. Or this Punyam can be used by a religiously spiritual person to gain Chitta Shuddhi, or this purity of mind, or this preparedness of mind that gives this person the adhikaritvam for Vedanta. So this is the prayojanam of the Veda Purva. But the Veda Purva doesn't remove this self-ignorance. It keeps one in samsara because one is saying, I want to be fulfilled by gaining the Artha and Kamaha. Or even the person who is after Chitta Shuddhi, that person also says, I am not fulfilled. I want to gain Chitta Shuddhi so that I can eventually gain this Purnatvam. So the Veda Purva goes along with the self-ignorant person. It doesn't at once say that you are Brahman because the person is not ready for it. If it says that, then this person will not understand what you're talking about and will say, this is not for me. The Veda Purva, for the time being, handholds this person, saying that you want this, fine, I will give you what you want, so that later I can give you what I want to give you. At time being, I'll give you what you want, but my eventual goal is to give you what I want to give you. So the Veda Purva goes along with this person, but during this period, the self-ignorance remains intact. But our benefit, from the point of view of a religiously spiritual person, the benefit is that it can give this Chitta Shuddhi, the Adhikaritvam for Vedanta. Then we talked about the Shabdas of Vedanta. We looked into the meaning of Vedanta. Vedasya antaha or Vedanam antaha, that which is located at the end of the Vedas physically. Or an alternate meaning is Vedanam antima nirnayaha, the final conclusion of the Vedas. Or yet another shade of meaning that is possible is Vedanam Shikharaha, or the summit or the limit of the Vedas in terms of their teaching, the most profound, the most sublime teaching, the most sublime revelation contained in the Veda. So that is Vedanta. Then we looked at the definition of Vedanta given in the Vedanta Sara, which is Vedanta. Vedanto nama Upanishad Pramanam. Vedanta is Upanishad, synonymous with the Upanishad. And it's a pramana for what? A pramana for Brahman. And tad upakarini shariraka sutradini cha. And whatever is helpful in understanding this revelation that Vedanta is providing, all those texts like the Brahma Sutras, etc., they are helpful in understanding the revelation of Vedanta, and therefore they are also considered to be Vedanta. So then we were talking about the Anubandha Chatushtayam of the Vedanta. So what is the Prayojanam? The Prayojanam of Vedanta is the rise of the knowledge. But that we say is the Avantara Prayojanam. It is the secondary benefit. Through that knowledge, I want to gain this Purnatvam. Or through that knowledge, I want to really know that this Purnatvam is my own nature. So this Purnatvam is the Mukhya Prayojanam. This rise on the knowledge is the means by which one, so in quotes, we can say, gains this Purnatvam. Then what is the Vishaya? The Vishaya is Atma, this I. Or the Vishaya is Brahman, Paramatma, this absolute reality. Or we can say that the Vishaya is Brahma Atma Aikyam or Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam, the oneness of this Jivatma and the Paramatma. This is the Vishaya. And what is the Sambandha? What is the connection between this Vishaya and the Prayojanam? How does the study of the Vishaya lead to the Prayojanam? There we said that Vedanta is the pramana, the Vishaya is the prameya. So between Vedanta and the Vishaya, there's a pramana prameya sambandha. And what is the connection between Vedanta and the Atma Jnanam, which is the Avantara Prayojanam, the secondary Prayojanam? The connection between Vedanta and the Atma Jnanam is the pramana prama sambandha. Then what is the connection between this Atma Jnanam and the ultimate Prayojanam, which is this Purnatvam? This sadhana, it is sadhya sambandha. Because Purnatvam or moksha is eka sadhana sadhyam. It is accomplished only by one means, which is jnanam. And this jnanam is also eka sadhana sadhyam, which is accomplished by this pramana. So what is the connection between the pramana and the purnatvam? Is that the pramana, which is Vedanta, is the revealer, which gives rise to this prama, which is the Atma Jnanam. And this Atma Jnanam shows that I am already Purna. So this is how we connect everything. Then the fourth part of this Anubandha Chatushtayam is the Adhikari. And this Adhikari is what we have been discussing in the past classes since we pretty much started. We have been talking about who the Adhikari is. The Adhikari must be a Mumukshuhu. The Adhikari must be a Jigyasuhu, one who understands that moksha is eka sadhana sadhyam. And this Adhikari must be a Jigyasuhu who understands that this Jnanam is also eka sadhana sadhyam, and the sadhana is sadhana is this pramana. And there's one more step. You should know that this pramana is Vedanta. So this is how this person comes to Vedanta. And this is the Anubandha Chatushtaya. Then we talked about what is this study of Vedanta? How is it done? We said that it is done in the form of Shravanam, consistent and systematic study of Vedanta for a length of time under a competent Acharya. This is Shravanam. So consistent and systematic study of Vedanta. So we talked about this Shravanam as the means in which this pramana is employed. This pramana is employed during Shravanam by the Acharya. So the words of Vedanta are employed here. And we say that what does the inquiry involve? There are sentences of Vedanta. The sentences have words, and what the sentences are conveying is a relationship between the words. That is what a sentence is conveying. So with the help of the Guru, one understands what the words mean and what is the relationship between the words that these sentences are talking about. And we say that when this is done consistently and systematically, and when Vedanta is employed as a pramana should be employed by the Acharya, then there is a rise of Atma Jnanam. And this is done over a period of time, there is a rise of Atma Jnanam. So, we talked about the knower of Brahman becoming Brahman. How does the knower of Brahman become Brahman, because he was already Brahman. Already Brahman. He just did not know it. So when he becomes a knower of Brahman, he becomes Brahman. And a doubt can be raised here that isn't all of this that one is getting during Shravanam, isn't it some kind of theoretical knowledge? And then later, this is intellectual knowledge, and later I have to take the intellectual knowledge and do something in order to become Brahman. The example that one gives is that my friend visited this valley of flowers and he saw this beautiful valley of flowers and he came back to me. He described the entire valley of flowers. Now I have these descriptive words in my mind. But then I really understand the meaning of the descriptive words only when I visit the valley of flowers. And then I see what it really is. Then I understand what the description is all about. So isn't Shravanam giving me this kind of second-hand intellectual knowledge that then I later need to convert into this experience of Brahman or become Brahman somehow? So we pointed out the two fallacies in the question itself. We said that all knowledge is intellectual and therefore prefixing intellectual knowledge causes confusion. All knowledge is intellectual. And the second point is that one can never become Brahman. Why? Because let us say that I am fundamentally not Brahman. I am not Brahman by nature. My nature is not Brahman fundamentally. Like fire is hot. The nature of fire is hot. It cannot be changed no matter what. So like fire is hot, if I am fundamentally not Brahman, then no matter what, I can never become Brahman. Like fire can never become something else other than what it is. I can never become something else other than what I already am. Really. So then moksha would become impossible and Vedanta would become useless. So we say the only reason moksha is possible is because I already am Brahman. You already are Brahman. We just don't know that I am that Brahman. This is a knowledge that is separating, this ignorance that is separating one from being Brahman, even though one is Brahman. So all that one needs is a knowledge that destroys the ignorance. So then, but how about, the valley of flowers example? There's a big difference between what I really experienced versus what I knew earlier. So we said that there are two types of words. There are descriptive words. In case of descriptive words, the words come first, and I have a description in my mind, and the experience comes later. So what I have first is indirect knowledge, and that indirect knowledge is converted to direct knowledge because the object that the words are describing is a remote object, and I have to visit it, I have to experience it, and then it becomes direct knowledge. But we say the words of Vedanta are not like this. The words of Vedanta are introductory words. And in case of introductory words, the experience comes first and the knowledge comes. This introductory words come later. And what the words are talking about is what I am already experiencing. So in this case, I don't have to go and have another experience somewhere else. What are examples? So in this case, this produces direct knowledge, we say. So what are examples? We discuss the examples like the 10th man. The 10th man was already experiencing the 10th man. The 10th man did not know that he himself was the 10th man. So the introductory words introduced the 10th man to himself as the 10th man. That you are the 10th. When he heard these words, he came to know that I am the 10th man that I have been seeking. And after this knowledge, he didn't have to go about separately experiencing the 10th man. Similarly, we saw this example of the old man who had mistaken a jackfruit for a pumpkin, and he was looking for the jackfruit. He said, I only see the pumpkin. Where is the jackfruit? His wife told him that the so-called pumpkin that you are talking about is the jackfruit that you're looking for. When he was told this, then he understood that this, what he was experiencing, was itself the jackfruit, and he didn't have to go and experience the jackfruit separately. He cannot. There is no other jackfruit that has to be experienced separately other than what is in his experience presently. Similarly, we saw this example of the school reunion. So this person was looking for this childhood prankster, Chintu. And then he was talking to this person, this bearded, bald-headed person, for 10 minutes. And then he asked this third person, where is Chintu? I have not met him. And he told him that this bald-headed, bearded person you have been talking to for the 10 minutes, is that Chintu that you're seeking? So now he did not have to go and experience Chintu separately. These are introductory words. He effectively introduced him to Chintu, who was right in front of him. And similarly, we saw Pujya Swamiji's flight example, when this person was sitting next to Pujya Swamiji. And he was seeking for Pujya Swamiji. He wanted to visit Pujya Swamiji, but did not know that this person next to him was the person he was seeking. Again, introductory words. That after that, he did not have to go separately seeking an experience of Pujya Swamiji. So he said that these words, similar to these examples, the words of Vedanta are also introductory words. Why is it so? Because the I is there in every experience. This Samanya Jnanam of the I is there. That I know that I exist even prior to any experience. This is the first thing I have to admit, that I know I am there. And only after that, everything else comes. The experiencer has to be there prior to any experience. We cannot talk about an experience without the experiencer. So the experiencer, this I, this Atma, is there in every experience. See, if this Samanya Jnanam is not there, I would not even be able to make a mistake. If I cannot even see the rope, there is no possibility of even mistaking it to be a snake. But I am saying that I am tall, I am short, I am happy, I am sad. All of these are superimpositions on the I am. So the superimposition of the snake on the rope is possible only if the rope is known. Similarly, the superimposition of I am tall, I am short, I am happy, I am sad, etc. All of this is possible because the I am, Samanya Jnanam, is there. If it was not there, I wouldn't even be able to talk about I am being tall, etc. But I very confidently say, I am 5 feet 9 inches tall. I am happy today. I am sad today, etc. So all this indicates Samanya Jnanam of I am is very much there. What is lacking is this Vishesha Jnanam. So the introductory words of Vedanta provide me with this Vishesha Jnanam. And therefore, this is not similar to this Valley of Flowers example. We say Shravanam, the employment of the pramana, the employment of the words of Vedanta leads to direct Atmajnana. Then we talked about that, is there a way so you can prove this to me, because if I have to undertake all this, can you give me some proof that I will get this Atmajnanam at the end of the Vedanta study? So we said this is like the blind man asking the doctor who has operated on him, the doctor who fixed his blindness, him telling the doctor that I will not open my eyes until you prove to me that my eyes will see. So the doctor told him, the only way to prove that your eyes will see is to use the eyes, to open the eyes and see that they give you fruitful knowledge. He says, similarly, the only way to prove that Vedanta works is to let Vedanta prove itself. One has to embark on the study of Vedanta where this pramana is employed, and the pramana has to prove itself. There is no other way. So he said that this self-knowledge takes place. But we added one caveat, that this adhikari, this should be a qualified aspirant, should have certain qualifications. And then the question arises, what are these qualifications that should be present for this Atma Jnanam to take place when the pramana is employed? So as we said that this moksha is eka sadhana sadhyam. This person has to be very clear about it. The sadhana is only jnanam. This jnanam is also eka sadhana sadhyam. The sadhana is pramana. And then Vedanta is that pramana. So Vedanta is the appropriate pramana. He has to come to this point. Like to see colors, I have to employ my eyes. The eyes are the appropriate pramana. But then we added one more condition, that the pramana has to operate adequately. For example, if the eyes have cataract, then I cannot see clearly. So similarly, we say that this pramana, for this pramana Vedanta to operate adequately, there have to be certain qualifications in the mind. The mind of the adhikari has to have certain qualifications. So these qualifications can be viewed as a supporting means for this pramana to work. Just like the removal of the cataract or this improving the light are like supporting means that allow the pramana of the eyes to work properly. Similarly, gaining these qualifications are essentially removing obstacles. Removing the cataract is removing an obstacle. Improving the light is removing the dim light. So all of this is just removal of obstacles. Obstacles that obstruct the functioning of the pramana. So there are certain obstacles in the mind, and as one gets rid of those obstacles, the person, we say, becomes more qualified. So chitta shuddhihi, this is called chitta shuddhihi, the removal of the obstacles of the mind, the impurities of the mind is called chitta shuddhihi. So this chitta shuddhihi, we say, is aneka sadhana sadhyam. Aneka sadhana sadhyam, meaning that the chitta shuddhi can be attained by multiple means. We are very particular that moksha can be attained only through jnanam, and this jnanam, for that the sadhana is the means, is the pramana, only one means. But this chitta shuddhi, which is a supporting cause, whose presence is required to help this pramana operate obstacle-free adequately, that can be attained through multiple means, and all of these means bundled together are known as karma yoga. So karma yoga is the means for attaining chitta shuddhi, and it's a bundle of multiple means. So we will first examine what this chitta shuddhi is. So we talked about the mind having obstacles or impurities, and the removal of these impurities is basically chitta shuddhi. We can talk about the mind having three impurities. One is called malaha, then vikshepaha, and third is avaranam. Avaranam is the same as ajnanam. So let us see what these three are. What is this malaha? So malaha is a certain impurity or obstacle of the mind that cannot be seen with a microscope, etc. Again, we come to know about this through the Shastra only. But one can infer the presence of it. For example, if one is attracted to doing nishiddha karma, prohibited actions, or if one is attracted to doing adharma, satyam vada, but this person says asatyam, adharmanchara, he commits adharma, ahimsa paramo dharma, but he is somehow drawn towards himsa. So all of this indicates the presence of malaha. Malaha is effectively papam. There's some papam that is causing this person to go in this direction. So this can be inferred through these types of actions, that there is some malaha, some papam is there. So what is the means for reducing or removing this? We say that the means is karma yoga. So karma yoga is the means for reducing malaha. And the second impurity or obstacle is vikshepaha. So what is this vikshepaha? Basically various preoccupations of the mind. For example, the mind is constantly thinking about some family issues or some profession issues or possession issues. Mind is constantly preoccupied with all this. Or there can also be just this jumping from one thought to another, random. For example, we might have come across some people who start on talking on a particular topic. For example, if we are driving with somebody, they may say a nice car. That is a nice Toyota. And then suddenly from the topic of car, which is a Toyota by association, one jumps to, did you know that that Rakesh just bought a Toyota? So the topic jumps to Rakesh. And then he says, did you know that Rakesh's child just joined the school? So now the topic has gone to Rakesh's child from the Toyota. And then that Rakesh's school, a lot of churn of teachers now. There's a lot of churn of teachers going on. Teachers are leaving and new teachers are coming because the principal is very strict. The topic has gone to the principal of the school. So there's random jumping from one topic to another, right? There's no focus in the conversation. The conversation doesn't enlighten anything at all. Just talking about random things in the world. All of this is vikshepa. So this, we say, is reduced by upasana yoga. Upasana yoga. And then there is this third and final impurity. This is avaranam. This is basically ajnanam. And we say that this ajnanam goes only through the study of Vedanta. So these are the three impurities and how they are removed. So now the question is that what is this chitta shuddhi? Does it mean removal of all of these obstacles? So we say that it is the third obstacle, which is ajnanam, is not yet removed in chitta shuddhi. At the stage of chitta shuddhi, one is still an adhikari. So the adhikari is an ajnani. Because if the avarana, the ignorance was also removed, this person would become a jnani. Then what is the need to talk about adhikaritvam, chitta shuddhi, etc. So this person who we talk about as having chitta shuddhi, this adhikari, has removed or reduced. We don't say removed, because removed means total removal. We say reduced or neutralized these first two impurities, malaha and vikshepaha. So this person who has removed this malaha, reduced or neutralized this malaha and vikshepaha, is the ideal candidate for Vedanta. He's still an ajnani, but earlier he was turbulently ignorant. Because his mind was all over the place, turbulently ignorant. Now we say he is quietly ignorant. So this person is the ideal candidate. So we can compare this ajnanam as being like this, tyrannic king who is causing a lot of problems in the kingdom. So he's sitting on his throne and he's causing a lot of problems for the entire kingdom. But then he has these two sons that are Malaha and Vikshepaha. So these two children, these two sons, they are powerful warriors or defenders of this ajnanam. So one has to approach this ajnanam, one has to first neutralize these two warriors that are defending the ajnanam. Only then one can access it. Or another example we can take is that this removal of this ajnanam is like a fine surgery that has to be done by the guru or the acharya. And like in the Laukika surgery in the hospital, certain prep work has to be done before the surgery. For example, if the BP is high and the sugar is high, no doctor will touch this patient. So he says, first your BP has to be in control, your sugar has to be in control, only then the surgery can be done. Surgery becomes very difficult or basically fails otherwise. So similarly, before this, the guru can remove this ajnanam by the employment of the Vedanta Pramana. One has to neutralize this Vikshepa, Malaha and Vikshepaha. Only then this ajnanam can be removed. And that is why there is a lot of importance on the preparedness of mind. So we say that this Malaha and Vikshepaha reduction is an increase in Chitta Shuddhi. Basically, it's inversely proportional. You can think about it that way. Malaha and Vikshepa reduce, this Chitta Shuddhi increases. And we say the qualifications also increase. With the Chitta Shuddhi increase, the person becomes more qualified. So now, Vedanta talks about these qualifications further. And these qualifications are divided into four. They're called Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampattihi. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampattihi. So what is this Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampattihi? So this is where I had sent some of those extracts today, which we will look into. These extracts are from a text called Tattva Bodhaha. Tattva Bodhaha. And it is one of the preliminary texts that are studied before one approaches the other texts. So it is like an introduction to Vedanta or a primer of Vedanta. So Tattva Bodhaha talks about all these things. So in this class, we will look at some of the extracts from Tattva Bodhaha and what it is talking about. So this text is attributed to Bhagavad Pada Adi Shankaracharya. There are some differences of opinion, but it is a very authentic text in the tradition, and therefore it is invariably studied because it provides an introduction to a lot of the basic terms, etc. So here, let us look at the first extract from Tattva Bodhaha, where the question is asked and the answer is given. This is the format in Tattva Bodha. A question is asked about a particular term, and then the term is defined or explained. So here, what is this Sadhana Chatushtayam is explained. So let us look at that. So I will read it. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampat Sadhana Chatushtayam Kim. Sadhana Chatushtayam Kim. So Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha Ihamutrartha Phala Bhoga Viragaha Shamadhi Shatka Sampattihi mumukshutvam cheti. Sadhana chatushtayam kim? So what is this sadhana chatushtayam? The student is asking. The teacher says, Nitya nitya vastu vivekaha, ihamutrartha phala bhoga viragaha, shamadhi shatka sampattihi, mumukshutvam cheti. So the text is enumerating four things. What are they? Nitya nitya vastu vivekaha, or vivekaha in short. That is the first qualification. Then iha mutrartha phala bhoga viragaha, or vairagyam in short. This is the second qualification. And then shamadhi shatka sampattihi. Note that it is shamadhi, not samadhi, etc. Shamadhi shatka sampattihi, meaning this qualification is a combination of 6 qualifications beginning with shama, etc. Shama, adi, shatka sampattihi. So it's 6 qualifications beginning with shama. The last one is mumukshutvam cheti. Mumukshutvam. As you see, mumukshutvam is already included in these 4 qualifications. See, in our study, we had hoisted out this mumukshutvam and we talked about in detail earlier to say how a person becomes a mumukshu. Because only when a person becomes a seeker of moksha does the question of Vedanta, etc., come into the picture at all. So we had pulled out this qualification. Similarly, as we explain these qualifications, you will see that we have already discussed some of these qualifications and others are some new qualifications we have not yet discussed. So some of these we have already touched upon, but we have not named them explicitly. So here we will revisit the qualifications we have already talked about and give specific names to them. So the first qualification, before we get to that, so why these 4 qualifications? I mean, is there a way I can sort of relate to it, right? Why these 4 qualifications? If we look at it, the entire Vedanta sadhana, it involves, you can talk about it as involving 4 things. The world that we see around us, it is basically a mixture of the real and the unreal. Both the real and the unreal are sort of intimately mixed together in this world around us. So the perishable and the imperishable, they're all mixed up. So first thing is to be able to distinguish what is the perishable, what is imperishable, what is perishable, what is real, what is not real, what is eternal, what is not eternal. One has to have some ability to do this discernment, this distinguishing of the two. So this is the first step. And the second step is, once I have discerned, I let go of the clinging to or the longing for the unreal. That which is unreal, not eternal, perishable, I have to let go of the longing for that. And I can let go of the longing for the unreal only if I am able to distinguish what the unreal is. The first step is to be able to discern. The second step is to be able to let go of the clinging or longing. So this is basically what Viveka and Vairagya correspond to. Viveka is doing this distinguishing, this discrimination, and Vairagya is letting go of the clinging. The third thing is to develop some discipline, some mental discipline, or certain disciplines are required. So this is the Shamadhi Shatka Sampattihi. These are various disciplines. And the fourth thing is that once I have let go of the clinging to the unreal, to the non-eternal, to the perishable, I desire and pursue that which is imperishable and eternal. That is basically the mumukshutvam. So all of these 4 nicely fit into this into this bird's eye view of what Vedanta is. Each has a role to play. So we say that all of practice, all of karma, etc. People people talk about, how should I practice Vedanta? So practicing Vedanta, or practice, the question of practice is basically how do I do something, right? How do I practice, put into practice what you're talking about? So we say this practice is the way to gain these qualifications. The question of practice comes in, question of karma comes in when I am trying to gain these qualifications. And they can be gained by certain practices, by certain karma, by doing something. So this all comes under karma yoga, gaining of these qualifications. And once comes to Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, then we don't talk about practice as much there, because it is more about knowing what Vedanta is talking about. So there is just two things: get the qualifications and know. Become qualified and know something, right? So when we are knowing something, then the question of practice doesn't come in. The practice comes in order to gain the qualifications. If I'm not able to know, that means I lack some qualifications. So do some practices, gain those qualifications, and then employ the pramana again. Do the shravanam. Try to know what Vedanta is revealing. So this is the division. The second one is Jnana Yoga, Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam. This is all about knowing something. Knowing something as the Pramana is revealing is Jnana Yoga. So now let us look at what this first qualification or Viveka is. So let us look at the second extract from Tattva Bodha. So there the student asks this question. Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka Kaha. Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka Kaha. See, that is how the second thing is how it is pronounced. Because when there is a visarga before a kakara, it becomes an ardha visarga. Jikhva muliyaha, it's called. So it is optionally and preferably pronounced like Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka Kaha. That kaha comes in. So the answer is given Nityavastvekam Brahma Tadvyatiriktam Sarvam Anityam Ayameva Nitya Nityavastu Vivekaha. So what is this Nitya Nityavastu Vivekaha? This is the question that is asked. The answer that is given is Nityavastu Ekam Brahma. And this Brahman alone is the Nitya Vastuhu. Nitya, Anitya means eternal, non-eternal, or imperishable, perishable. Nitya means imperishable. Anitya means perishable. What this text is saying is Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma Eva. You can add the Eva. Brahman alone is this Nitya, imperishable Vastu. Tad Viriktam Sarvam Anityam. Other than that, everything is anitya, everything is perishable. Ayameva nitya nitya vastu vivekaha. Knowing this is nitya nitya vastu vivekaha. So this vivekaha is often translated into English when the word discrimination is used. That's why Swamiji calls these qualifications as the 4 Ds. The discrimination is vivekaha. Vairagyam is dispassion. And then there's Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, here certain disciplines. And this Mumukshutvam is a desire for the imperishable. This is mumukshutvam. So 4 Ds. So it's often translated as discrimination. But in the normal day-to-day life, the discrimination word has sort of attained some kind of a negative connotation because people talk about racial discrimination or gender discrimination, etc. So that kind of a thing, nothing negative is meant here. When we look at what the word vivek, the etymology of the word vivekaha, it comes from this dhatuhu called which dhatuhu, with a prefix, vi prefix. So if we look into what this which dhatu means, then it means to divide, to separate something, to divide, to distinguish something, to separate something, to remove something from something else. So this kind of a meaning, to discern, to judge, this kind of a meaning comes in. So it is an ability to separate between two things that are mixed up. This is called discriminative thinking. In order to take a situation where things are like mixed up and be able to cleanly separate one thing from another. So the Shastras give the example of a swan. And a swan, this swan was apparently able to take a mixture of milk and water. They were very hard to separate. And then it would sip only the milk out of this mixture. It had that ability. So this swan is said to have this kind of vivekaha to just take the milk from the mixture. Similarly, there is the grass called munja grass. So in that grass, there is something inside that grass that is useful. But to get to that, one has to kind of remove this cover. And it's already very thin, and one has to remove the cover very carefully to expose what is inside. So similarly, one has to do some fine removal there. So this kind of a fine distinguishing one has to be able to do in one's own thinking. Or if we take a diamond merchant, then he's looking at a mixture where real diamonds and false diamonds, fake diamonds are all mixed up. They all look identical superficially. So one has to be able to take this and do some critical examination of it and then say this is a real diamond, this is the fake. So again, Vivekaha is involved here. So in our case, what is this Tattva Bodha? What is this text talking about? Discriminating what from what? As we said, Nitya Vastu Vivekaha is distinguishing the Nitya Vastu and the Anitya Vastu. What is imperishable and what is perishable? So if we see this, then in this entire world, the entire world is within space and time. The entire universe is within space and time. And everything in this world is subject to the onslaught of time. Everything from the biggest galaxy to the smallest microbe, everything is subject to the onslaught of time. There's nothing that can escape time. Whatever comes into existence will eventually go out of existence. Something may appear to be very, very solid. For example, a rock appears to be very solid. But we know about wind erosion and erosion by the sea or the river, etc. So over a period of time, it gets converted to dust. So no matter how solid something appears, it is not eternal, it will go. Similarly, there is no person, no object, no situation, nothing is immune from this onslaught of time. So everything has to come to an end. No person, object, situation, relationship, everything has to come to an end one day. Hence, everything is anitya. But there is one Nitya Vastu that Vedanta presents as Brahman. So one has to know that that is Nitya. That is not subject to this onslaught of time. That never decays. It never comes and goes. It is everlasting. It is eternal. It is always there. This is the Nitya Vastu Brahman. So only the Brahman is imperishable. So now this Viveka, we say, is the cause of the other qualifications. Well, like we said, only when one can distinguish what is Anitya and what is Nitya, then one can let go of the clinging, of the longing, of this dependence on the Anitya for my own peace, security, happiness. So we say that Viveka is like the seed qualification from which the other qualifications arise. Vairagya arises out of this Viveka. Now a question arises here that is this Viveka the final knowledge? Because in order to say Brahman is Nitya, etc., one has to know Brahman. Then one becomes a Brahmagyani. So is this Viveka the Brahmagyanam, or is this some kind of a doubtful knowledge? What is it? So this question is taken up in a discussion in a commentary called Tattva Bodhini, the Bala Bodhini. It's a commentary on a text called Vedanta Sara. So there this point is discussed. So what it says is that if this was Brahma Jnanam, if this was the final Jnanam that a Jnani attains, then this Adhikari would become a Jnani. And this Shravana, Manana, etc. would become redundant. So this is not that Brahma Jnanam. But then is this some kind of doubtful knowledge that maybe, all this is Anitya and maybe Brahman is only the only Nitya Vastu, etc. Then such vague knowledge cannot lead to a qualification like Vairagya. We say that this Viveka leads to Vairagya. So then what is it? What is this Viveka? So what he says is that one doesn't have the full Brahma Jnanam. The aparoksha, the direct knowledge is not there. But this is a form of indirect knowledge only. Indirect knowledge by looking at various experiences of the world. For example, if we look at pots, then in the world of pots, these pots are anitya. They come and go. But this clay is nitya. So every anitya vastu has a nitya adhishthanam. The pots cannot exist without the clay. The clay is nitya, clay is there. And the nitya clay is put into various forms of pots, etc. The pots may break, but the clay remains. The clay was there before the pot. The clay is there even when the pot is there, and the clay is there after the pot is destroyed. So in this, we say that every nitya vastu, every anitya vastu has a nitya adhisthana. The same in case of ornaments and gold. Ornaments are anitya, they come and go, but they have to have a nitya adhishthanam, which is the gold. So the general idea that one comes to from this is that every anitya vastu has to have a nitya adhishthanam. This is an inviolable law. And once one understands it, I see so much anityatvam here. Everything is anitya here. So this too, this universe too should have a nitya adhishthanam. This is the understanding. And then once one comes to this point, then one says that I still don't know what that nitya adhishthanam is. I don't know that. But even though I don't know that, I know that this nitya, all this nitya adhishthanam is different from all of these anitya vastus, and since they are all anitya, I should not lean on them for my peace, security, and happiness. This one can arrive at. So this is a form of paroksha jnanam, a form of indirect knowledge that there is a nitya vastu and all of this is anitya. So this is the Viveka. So now there is more to be discussed on this topic of Viveka. We will continue this in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So any comments or questions on what we discussed today?
Yes, sir. Can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So important topic being discussed today, that is the mind impurities.
Yes.
Right. 3 topics on which the discussion took place. That is malaha, vipshekaha, and abaranam.
Yes.
And my question, there are one main question and subset of 2 questions. I'll try to put it. How to put these into practice in our life, because everybody has got this particular impurities. Without these impurities, we cannot become jnani. So everybody has got these impurities. How to put this into practice? And the second question is, after putting this practice, how do we know that we have neutralized these impurities? Right? That is the second subset. The third question is, okay, one assumes that I have put into practice, I've neutralized these 2 defects, and assume that I'm ready for Vedanta. And if I go to the Guru, that now I've neutralized these defects, can I be ready for study of Vedanta? So how does Guru know that, yes, you have neutralized this effect? Any correlation between what I do and then what Guru knows? These are the 3 questions from my mind in today's class.
Yeah, very good questions. So let us take the first point about how this is put into practice, right? So as we said, that this whole thing about practice comes up in terms of gaining the qualifications. One has to do certain practices, right? You can say one has to do certain practices in order to gain the qualifications. Once one gains the qualifications, it's less about practice and more about knowing. So then the question is, how does one gain these qualifications? That's the first part of your question.
Yep.
So we said it is done through karma yoga. Karma yoga is the means for gaining this chitta shuddhi. So in the Veda Purva itself, right, one can be a seeker of artha and kama and approach the Veda Purva. Or one can be this religiously spiritual person who is desirous of chitta shuddhi and approach the Veda Purva. So there are 2 types of people who approach the Veda Purva. For the first person who is primarily interested in artha and kamaha and engages in various karmas that the Veda Purva talks about, for such a person, the progress of chitta shuddhi is lesser, because the bulk of the punyam goes into the attainment of artha and kama. Well, this religiously spiritual person who approaches the Veda Purva saying that I'm not interested in artha and kama now. That is not my predominant goal. What I want is chitta shuddhi. So if such a person with this mindset approaches the Veda Purva and engages in the same karmas, the nitya naimitika karmas, etc., then we say that this person begins to gain this punyam that finally gives this chitta shuddhi. So this karma yoga is an important topic, and we have a set of classes purely for that. The next topic after we finish the qualifications will be how do we gain the qualifications. So we will come to that after this topic on qualifications is over. Your next question is about how do I know that these impurities are there and how do
Yes.
impurities are removed. I mean, both are
Yes.
effectively, in some sense, a similar question. How do I know that they are removed, or how do I know they are getting reduced? Right.
Yes, correct.
So the answer to that is that we can know through anumana pramana, through inference.
Okay.
See, even though we dismiss the other pramanas, that doesn't mean we dismiss the other pramanas so that they are not capable of revealing the Atma. But the other pramanas have applicability in Vedanta in different places, not for revealing the Atma, but in different contexts, we bring in the other pramanas as necessary.
Okay.
So we know through Anumana, just like we see smoke on a hill, and we infer that there is fire because there is an invariable connection between the fire and the smoke.
Correct.
Right? There can be no smoke without fire.
Fire, yeah.
Similarly, if one has a tendency to do nishiddha karmas, if one has a tendency to between, when presented with two choices, one is dharma and adharma, one has this misjudgment and goes with adharma, then we can infer the presence of malaha. We don't see the malaha, but we infer its presence.
Oh.
Similarly, if there is all these visible thoughts, you see, all of these preoccupations are there. In that case, we say that is Sakshi Pratyaksha itself. You know that when your mind is going through so much, you know that itself is this Vikshepa. Right.
Correct.
So now, how do we know this is getting reduced? So we say that this person will see that one is becoming incapable of picking up these adharmic choices in life. One becomes more and more incapable of doing that. Even if one is tempted with two options, saying, "Hey, if you do this adharma, he won't be told it's adharma. If you pick option one, you will get so much, right? If you pick option two, you may actually have to go through some suffering in the short term." This is what he sees. If I pick option one, I gain this worldly things. If I pick option two, I may have to go through some hard times. But he says, I am incapable of doing what is wrong. He will say, this is not an option at all for him. Then we can say that this malaha has been drastically reduced in this person. So we infer this.
Okay.
Then let's come to the third part of your question. Can you repeat that third part?
Yes. Now, after coming to the realization that I have neutralized these three defects, I am ready for study of Vedanta. I know about it, but how do I know or approach Guru? And Guru also should know that yes, he has attained Siddha Shuddhi and ready for Vedanta.
See that basically this is not a black and white thing. That at some point one has become ready and then one approaches.
Okay.
This whole transition is like a spectrum.
Okay.
There are adhikaris, as we have discussed, who are on this entire spectrum. Right. So even in the same class taken by one guru, there can be students at different levels of adhikaritvam in the same class.
Yeah.
So there is no clean transition point that I am now fit to approach the guru. In fact, the guru doesn't turn away anybody really.
Okay.
You come, you sit, and most of the times, what will happen is that if the person is not an adhikari or very less of an adhikari, the person will be disinterested in the whole subject. They will not come beyond more than 1-2 classes, and then they will figure out this is not for me. They themselves will leave the class. So, so people who are persisting with this study, who see some value in it, who have developed an interest in Vedanta, we can infer that some of these qualifications are there.
Okay. Right, sir. So before other people ask two questions connected to the first one.
Okay.
In the defect called malaha,
Yes.
for example, adharmam, dharmam and all, we know what is to be practiced. But on the thinking process, I'm talking about jealousy, and then harming others through mind. These are also called malaha, no?
Yes, it will all come under, basically transgression of the various values, right? So it comes under malaha only, not that specific action. See that these are all manifestation of the malaha that is unseen. The malaha itself is an unseen thing, but when some negative tendencies arise, we infer the presence of malaha that is not seen. But as we discussed, that that this itself is a process. This whole of karma yoga is a process of gaining these qualifications, and one should avoid being too judgmental about oneself during this process.
Okay.
Right. So, because what happens is some negative tendency arises in the mind, like anger, let us say. And then once that arises, then I should not be angry is another thing that arises. Right. So that I have failed as a student of Vedanta, or I am not good enough. This kind of judgment should also be avoided in the process.
Okay.
So basically, there are things in the mind and they are coming out, right?
Yeah.
And I basically avoid self-judgment.
Okay.
That is also an important thing. I should
Right,
make
sir.
a note that yes, this thing happened, and therefore, if this is happening more, then I have to do certain practices in order to neutralize it, but avoid judging oneself in the process.
Right, sir. And you touched upon to reduce this. You made one topic called Upasana Yoga, correct?
Right.
And then that is nothing but meditation, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
Yes, Upasana comprises of various meditations
Okay.
that one can take up. And one of them, for example, value meditation. So even meditating on the value of values, right? Like some of the things that we went through in the discussion on the dharma and values, etc. So doing contemplation of that type, right? In order to see the value of values, because I have to see the value of a value in order for the value to be valuable to me.
Correct.
So I have to first see that why these values have to be valued, and why the opposite is hurting me, is doing me, creating a conflict in me, like this thinker doer split, etc. Right. So the more I become aware of that, the more the value becomes valuable to me. So there are various types of meditations that all come under the heading of Upasana.
Right, sir. Thank you. I think I've taken a lot of questions today. I think I leave the forum to other people to ask questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
I just want to thank Vishwanathan ji. He's asking very good questions, and he shows very keen, taking notes and summarizing, whatever you say for the class in his form of questions. Thank you, Vishwanathan ji.
Thank you.
Mm.
No,
Yes,
I'm all Ajnani. We are all Ajnani. So we need to remove our, these thinking. That is the reason I'm asking these questions.
see, the asking of questions is an important sadhana, which comes under mananam. And
Yes.
if there is a doubt, I mean, lots of times what will happen is a doubt will get gradually cleared in subsequent classes. Sometimes there are these persistent doubts, and it is better to get them clarified rather than feel shy or
Yes.
feel that that it may not be a good question, right? So let us not have any kind of shyness or fear. and that basically opens up the channels of communication that way.
Right, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Sir, I seek all your blessings. My Sashti Murti function is going to be held in Sringeri on
Very nice. Very
23rd
nice.
and 24th June with the benign blessings of our Ubaya Gurus, both Mahasannidhanam and Sannidhanam. So I'm formally
Very
inviting you
nice.
on this class. And though I'm not sent any invitation to all of you, but I thought it's a right occasion to communicate this to all of you and seek all your blessings and progress in my spiritual progress in along with you, sir. That's what I'm seeking.
Very nice. Very happy to know that. Our best
Yes.
wishes are with you, and the blessings of the entire Guru Parampara.
Yes, sir.
They are also with you. So our best
Right, sir.
wishes for the occasion.
So I will not be able to attend the next week class, but I will go through your class notes after I come back from Sringeri, sir.
Sure.
Thank you.
Shall we conclude then?
Yes, sir.
Hari.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, everyone.
Hari Om.
Om. Dhanyawadaha. Hari Om. Satyanji.
Hari Om. Hari Om Shadaji. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om Satyanji.
Hari Om.